I do a self-portrait every year on my birthday. I think of it more as an inner celebration than having a big party. It's more just time for me to stop and take stock and kind of think about the cycle I've just completed and the ones coming up in the future. I'm Judith Cassel-Mamet. I am an art educator and I'm an art journaler. I consider myself a story seeker. I work in mixed media and I love adventures, so I'm going to throw that one in there too. I have a hard time saying that I'm only this or I'm only that. So this notion of identifying with a specific category for me doesn't fit as much as identifying with all the pages in my journal. And I found that taking the time to be intentional about doing a self-portrait is a really good time to just see what's in my viewfinder right now, what am I looking at, what do I want to play with, and again, standing in that spot of looking backwards and looking forwards. So when I look back over 15 or 20 years at these self-portraits, I can have a pretty good laugh at, oh my gosh, I remember when I was in that space or tried that or did this. Some of it is laughing at myself, some of it is laughing at circumstances. Mostly it's a lighthearted look, coupled with that tension about, no, this is a serious time to be mindful about where I am. So when I started off teaching, I was really into pottery. That was my starter marriage. And I was doing pottery and everything was great. And then I started to sort of drift a bit and get really interested in pastels because I love the immediacy, I love the colors, and then I found art journaling. Art journaling to me is, well, it's permission and it's adventure. First of all, it's portable for me. And I love the ability to move and flow and explore and art journal in the mundane spaces of my life. What's the worst that can happen? I just turn the page. There is so much freedom in art journaling for me. So when I approach a self-portrait, typically what I do is I start with the text, again, because I like the way the text looks graphically, but more importantly, I'm thinking about what are the stories of the last year? Where do I want the story to go in this coming year? I really love to be in a place that is stimulating, that has good energy, has to have good light. Sometimes that's my car, sometimes it's a coffee shop, sometimes it's on a rock. I'm looking for inspiration. I'm looking to get started. I'm looking to write the first word. So sometimes working in an art journal can be very intimidating, looking at a big blank piece of paper. And so jumping in and getting my text totally activates it, totally takes the precious feeling away, totally gets it ready and gets me sort of in the mood. And then I circle back and will work on top of that text in a mixed media fashion. So I like to spray up a storm and wet it and blot it and just keep throwing paint on it until it's satisfying. I really love that tension between control and the flow, the lack of control. That seems to marry, that duality really connects with who I am. I see those two, the collage, the creation of the collage pages, the more controlled, like creating a face, coming together, and I just find that such an interesting place to reside. I'm a little bit more open, like more of a sponge, to see something and then try to figure out what is, scratch the surface, what is right below that, that's a metaphor that I might be able to use for self-growth, really, that would like highlight the joy and the adventure. My hope, and it's pretty lofty of course, but my hope is that it's, by doing these metaphors, that it's making me a little bit more sensitive and that my own personal growth will go forward, because a nice outcome of course is to feel like I've learned something out of this and I can be a more receptive person in general and a more joyful artist in particular. Leaning towards the fun and in many ways lowering the bar has really been a big motivator for me. To me, fun is really talking about that inner spark, that wink, the cosmic wink, the inner joy. It is such an important part of self-expression. I think it's very easy to slide into this place where things are precious. Sometimes I have to smack myself upside the head to remind myself, oh, get over yourself. It's getting too precious. Back off. Throw some paint. I think to really know joy, one really has to also stretch to be able to embrace the other side. And then for me, it's a choice, because in any art form, to see that light and the joy, if you have a darker background, it really radiates it forward. So what do I think when I look at my portrait? I always just want to turn the page. I'm ready for the next one. And it's hard to explain when the process ends, but it just sort of feels like the sentence has either run on enough or I've put a period on it, and then you know what? I'm ready to just move on. Turn the page, try something totally different, or sit back and wait for another year to go by before I go this direction again.